This
Working
conference
at
will now be
working at
recorded.
home quite a bit, so
What's
uh,
that?
working at home quite a bit, so half professional, I guess.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Um, Man, it's good to see you. Thanks for the time.
absolutely. How's your
Yeah,
day going?
it's not going too bad at all. Not going bad. The weather is actually pretty nice. It's kind of
Oh,
this is nice football weather right here.
absolutely. Yeah, we only get a few of these in Kansas where it's like 70s, and they still give us a wrinkle though with the wind here. It's been pretty windy here in Shawnee area.
Yeah, watch it start snowing tonight. It'd be just our luck. Um, so, all right. Well, let me hit my little intro real quick. Um, Hey everyone, what's up? This is Pat Brown. I am a financial advisor with Edmonds Duncan Investment Advisors here in Lawrence, Kansas. Played football for the University of Kansas years and years and years ago, and was an outside linebacker and started for 3 years and became very, very passionate in regards to financial literacy for student athletes. And that kind of led me down this path, and now I'm basically interviewing former student athletes in an effort to hopefully get those that are current student athletes to watch and learn from some of the successes as well as the failures. And so the thought is hopefully we can help them develop those habits that will benefit them later on in life. And so what I like to do is kind of read the definition of financial literacy, which is the possession of a set of skills and knowledge that allows an individual to make informed and effective decisions with all of their financial resources. And I always say that before my interview because I just, in my mind, I think a lot of these student athletes have this bad connotation about financial literacy. You hear the word, kind of makes you feel like, are you trying to say I'm not too bright? It's not the case. Again, kind of going back to just being an athlete in general, we're always taught to have different habits, whether it's working out, whether it's reading a playbook, create these habits and muscle memory. And so I think it's the same thing with financial literacy. So having said all that, got my man Mike Rivera as my guest. Mike, I appreciate your time. I had to do some cyber stalking of you, man, to
Oh man.
have, have a little something to read. So you're on the Buckets Award watch list, All Big 12, 13, All Big 12 honorable mention, academic All Big 12, first team KU Community Service Award, All Big 12 honorable mention. This is 2006. Academic All Big 12 again, second team, 2006. Co-defensive player of the week against International, Florida International, and then versus Baylor. So man,
Hmm.
Mike. Plus, you play in a number of Chicago Bears, Tennessee Titans, Green Bay Packers, Miami
Yeah, free agent
Dolphins.
life.
What's that?
Free agent life.
Free agent life, man. We'll definitely touch on that towards the end. But as you kind of think back, freshman year, sophomore year, did anybody ever talk to you about everything from savings accounts to budgeting to credit cards? Did any of that stuff ever come up at all?
Yeah, well, first off, shout out to a fellow linebacker, or else I wouldn't. If you're on the offensive side of the ball, I might not be doing this. But
My
uh,
man.
yeah, yeah, this is great. This is such a wonderful topic. The answer is not really. In the beginning, um, my parents were always, maybe talked about it, but not directly. Just maybe by example. Um, and as time went on, getting into college, where I always had started from day one having jobs where, mowing grass around the neighborhood, shoveling snow, raking leaves, hay baling, you name it. So I started a savings account early. And that was one of the first things that got me thinking. Once you see, you got $50 in there, then, 80, 100, start saving, you kind of notice that I got to keep that in there. You buy one thing, it's all gone.
Yeah,
So some of those things were instilled early. And then that evolved as when I went into college.
that's cool. So then, as far as credit, did you ever kind of, get that or talked to anybody about that, or is that something that's kind of out of sight, out of
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah. In the early days, credit was just, you have you have a debit card, you have a credit card. And, when I got to KU, went to Commerce Bank and started an account, and then started putting a little bit in here and there. Tried to use a debit card, but occasionally, the way I used to look at it is the credit card would be something you'd use, but if you did, you paid it off, that month, that next statement. So um,
Absolutely.
that's probably one of the best things I learned early on, was just that simple principle, just paying it off and not going too deep into it. I know, my brothers and sisters, they indirectly would talk to me about those type of things, and I think that helped me realize just a little bit, just have that little bit of knowledge in the beginning, which um, helped create some good habits down the road, which made it a little easier to start going in further to that financial dive.
Sure, sure. No, that's excellent. So then, as far as the decisions and that you kind of came to about money while you're in college, was it kind of like a trial and error type of situation, or because it sounded like you already kind of had a somewhat of a good foundation going to school?
Yeah, I think we as student athletes, especially if you're one on scholarship, you're not a walk on. You do have you live on campus, you get a little bit of a stipend, and then you live off campus, they give you a little more to offset the cost of living somewhere. I don't know necessarily what that cost is nowadays, but back in the '04 to '09 time, it was enough to pay some bills, some basics, and then just barely, rent, and then a little bit of spending money. So um, learned pretty quickly that you have to pool money with your roommates to make sure we could have a good time on the weekends and things like that. So um, that was a big deal. I never had, my parents always took care of the necessities and things, but never had that kind of extra spending money I could choose to do things with.
Yeah.
So getting into college and having that, as time went on, learned to use it a little more wisely, and take advantage of some of the resources they offer too.
Cool, cool, cool. Um, so what was your worst financial decision you made while you're in college, and what was your best, if you had
I,
one?
that's a pretty, you know, I think maybe something that I wish I would have done sooner was dive into, saving, not just some savings for, buying the basic, but just a little more, just maybe if it's, a few bucks, 25, 50 bucks a month here and there, to put into some sort of down the road retirement account, at
Yeah,
the earliest age as possible. Um, so I didn't know that. I didn't know how that worked, when I was 18, 19, 20. Wasn't really thinking about it. If I would have, I would have been investing much sooner. And
yeah,
I think one of my favorite things to look at is that compounding interest. If you take those kind of models, and if you get an estimated return and things, and if I would have done that, 10 or 15 years earlier, holy cow, it'd be a whole different ball game. So the
yeah.
earlier the better. Um, so something that when you asked me to come on here, something I did want to mention is, with my nieces and nephews, as soon as they get a job or as soon as they have some money coming in, that's a conversation we're having. I'm saying, let's set up a Roth,
Awesome,
let's set up something. I'm no
awesome.
financial advisor, but just to have that thought, because it's just never ending. You can never learn enough. There's always more to learn about the financial path and what you can do with your money and your income and protecting yourself and those type of things. So I'd say, just I wish I would have started earlier.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I couldn't agree with you more as far as your nieces and nephews. And it's all about exposure as well. I going through college, I just didn't really have exposure to. I was a communication major. Um, Obviously there were courses that dealt with this sort of thing, but I'm a communication major. I just didn't think to take it, and it just never really crossed my mind until later on, towards my senior year, that I kind of got exposed to it. So that's good that you're doing that. So, and you kind of touched on this next question, but looking back at college now, what do you wish you would have done differently in regards to dealing with your money? So it sounds like you said, just set up some type of investment account, letting that account compound over time would have been what you would have looked at, or is there anything else you would have done as well, or?
Um, I think, you know, the use of a credit card would have been, there was some times where balance got a little high, and when you don't have a lot coming in, and that balance, you can't just knock it out. So there was a few times where, you know, that it can get out of control quick. And if you have an expense, you know, I had a truck, if the truck needed some repair all of a sudden, and that was, you know, you're only getting a few hundred a month from, you know, that stipend, then so
Yeah,
just being, you know, being really careful of that. And it's hard, tough sometimes. Sometimes you know, you have to do it, but you know, making sure that you have a plan in place. And you know, maybe even at that stage, I had kind of a budget in you know, in my head, but
hmm,
perhaps, you know, doing something more on paper or in the phone now, having something that's laid out, you can see, just like, you know, writing goals down. If you see them and you read them every day, it's almost like they subconsciously happen. And you know, maybe having a little more of a visual plan, not just, I think I'm doing good, I think I'm doing, you know, right, but having something to look at every day.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, so how has the habits you formed in college affected life after college, or has it?
Yeah, the man, yeah, you know, one thing coming out of college, when you're at KU, it's an incredible opportunity. You know, there's so many people that you meet academically, in the athletic department, staff, the trainers, every person you come in contact with. It's just such a first class experience. And when you get out of you know, the educational at KU, you come into the real world, things are a little different. You have to start over. You may go right into a company. You may take some time to figure things out. And you know, so one thing I, you know, did have was the ability to, you know, work hard, treat people along the way that I, you know, I'd want to be treated. And not knowing that a lot of those people are people that you'll come back to at some point and ask for advice, or you know, perhaps they know somebody that you run into and make that connection. So
Absolutely.
um, so some of those type of things, you know, that a lot of those skills were learned at KU, and being a student athlete. The hard work is probably the biggest. I mean, you know, it's not just working hard, sometimes working smart, but man, the
Yeah,
work ethic piece is there. And it's just figuring out where to point that passion or that drive or that interest. That's probably the hardest thing. What was for me transitioning into the career world.
gotcha, gotcha. Um, so that we're getting towards the end here. So what are some of the pitfalls that you hope your story could prevent to young student athletes out there? So if you're to look back and look at a young Mike, like, yo, Mike, hey, listen, do X, Y, Z instead of this.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing here, to me, is probably one of the best things I think that could be around. I mean, if we had, you know, people in the advising world, it's always who can I trust, and those type of things. If, you know, as a young Mike, a young guy, it would be nice to have someone that could lay out some of those foundational points, and really start thinking about it. Because, I mean, these conversations done right at an earlier time in life can set up and make things a lot easier later. So having the education piece, of kind of the basics, you know, just the budgets, you know, what pitfalls, what to avoid, how to look out for family, parents, you know, making sure that some of those things are touched on. You know, I wish it was a bigger part of the curriculum, even starting in high school and working into college. But um, you know, having a resource like yourself that you can go to and get some of those conversations taken care of at an earlier time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now you're into the bonus round.
All
So
right.
right. So basically, I call it bonus round, but guys that make it to the next level, NFL, whether free agent or not. How did that change things as far as any monies that you receive as a free agent? How did you manage that? I mean, obviously, it's going to be a lot more than what you're probably accustomed to, in stipend. How did that all play out for you?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, the got really lucky, and signed on with the Chicago Bears. Very, very modest signing bonus. Nothing really to, that I could hang my hat on. But kept scraping along, kept getting on different teams and new opportunities. And once a steady paycheck started to roll in, I looked at it as as long as I was in the NFL, it's my career. It's a 30-year career. So whatever funds came in, I looked at it and kind of spread it out over 20 years, let's say, instead of I'm going to get this every year for the next 20 years. It's like whatever I receive in this next year, 2 years, 3 years, I'm only going to spend a small portion of it as if it's a 30 years of work. So
Yeah.
using that kind of mindset from the very beginning, I drove my same truck, the little Dodge Dakota. They barely let me in the facilities. Thought I was, the wrong, got lost, but those type of things. So really tried to, they do a great job, I think, in the NFL of education on that particular topic of being careful. Even though there's plenty of people who have issues with it, but really tried to take. One of my goals is to pay off a house and then save as much as I could. So that's what I did. I ended up through the 4.5 years paying off a house and then having some left over that kind of got me a good foothold moving forward.
Nice. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. I wish more people would do that. I mean, that's amazing. Okay, so out of KU, out of the league, tell people what you're doing now for yourself. What is Mike doing?
Yeah, well, it all started at KU. I didn't know it, but the house that I lived in, my parents early on, they would buy some properties and fix them up. They weren't true flippers by any means, just here and there buy houses and do some work to them. We ended up, my parents ended up finding a house in Lawrence, and they said, you can live here and you can get some roommates, and we're going to rent this thing out to the roommates. We all paid rent. So that, fast forwarding now, I'm in the commercial real estate world. When I was on different teams in the league, in different parts of the country, I'd always do interviews and informational interviews with anybody I could in the real estate world: mortgage, appraisal, commercial real estate, property management, and really found a passion in that world. Continued to rent the house in Lawrence and then started to add to that. So nowadays I work with small business owners here in the Kansas City area to locate, lease property, buy property, sell, manage their portfolios, and look for new opportunities. So still in that real estate world and love talking about it. And it pairs well with the financial conversations because they go hand in hand. You got to diversify and your savings and those things, and real estate is another way to do that.
Absolutely. Well, man, that was good. That was real good. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. And man, if you're in Lawrence, man, let me know. Buy lunch. Get on video.
Let's do it. Yeah, I look forward to connecting down the road, and thanks for the even opportunity to be on here, and had a chance to watch a few of the other sessions with the other guys, and it's just a great thing. The more you can talk about it and get people involved with those conversations early, it just seems like the best way to go.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, everybody that I talk to, I think if a student athlete watches, they can just pull a nugget from every episode. And again, if they're able to learn those habits earlier, it's going to be great for them, long term. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much. It's have a great happy Thanksgiving and holidays coming up, and look forward to catching up down the road.
Likewise. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right. Thanks. See you.
Yep. Bye-bye.